Hey everyone, my name is Vita Wade and I'm taking you on an adventure with me today. We're going to track sea turtles because I'm the in-country coordinator for the wider Caribbean Sea Turtle Network and I'm obsessing about leatherback turtles. I'm very curious as to how their nesting is going on the island. I'm very curious as to what sort of numbers they're coming in, and I'm interested in surveying them. So I want you to just join me on this adventure. I'm going to leave my house shortly and we're going to drive through the Bellum River area. I'll tell you all about this area because I live on Montserrat, which, if you don't know, is a volcanic island. We live in a live volcano, in fact. And the beach that I'm heading to is Barton Bay, which is an abandoned in an abandoned area, and the beach is a secluded beach. And I think we should find some leatherback nests. So yeah, stay with me. I hope you like this. If you do, then please like, share and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and it really helps our programming and it helps me as well. So stay blessed and let's go. Let's take a ride. This is the Bellum River area, which is prone to lahars. The volcano is up that way, and so in heavy rain it gets really full. But they've recently excavated this old bridge that was here since I was a child, and pre-volcano, and it got buried under about 40-foot ash when the volcano became erupted. So I'm gonna head to Barton Bay. I'm gonna check on the sea turtles. I want to see if any more leatherback turtles have come up on shore. I may not have time to do it tomorrow, so because I have a couple meetings tomorrow, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So I'm just trying to have a light day tomorrow. So I'm taking a chance of going over today. So this area is Cobb Hill, and I'm gonna drive past the geothermal site where they found some enough power to actually they dug for wells for geothermal energy to see whether or not the island could actually source that type of energy. The project has come to an end. It was on that site. It needs additional funding, but it would appear that Montserrat does have the potential to power the island with its heat energy from below ground. So we've just passed the Richmond Hill landmark, which I'd say is the Richmond Hill Sugar Mill Museum. It used to be where the island kept all of its artifacts, historical artifacts, heritage artifacts, and during the eruption all of that was moved into storage in the north of the island, and there's been a new museum established in Little Bay. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Anyway, I'll take a picture of that building as it's been renovated on the way out because I didn't get a chance to take it my way in. But there you have it. This area was a once affluent area. So this is the back of the Richmond Hill area. Maybe we should say the front of the Richmond Hill area. And I'm going to Barton Bay. So Barton Bay is the bay below the Springs Hotel. The Springs Hotel was again one of the island's most thriving destinations, overlooking Plymouth, or now buried city. So the road is a bit overgrown here, but to find my way right here No, it's not this one. I always get a little confused. It's the next one up. Those used to be villas as well. Like private villas. This is the road down to Barton Bay. So you look for that white pillar, and then you take the road down here. I mean, how incredible would it be if I was to see a late nesting leatherback turtle trying to make her way back into sea. I had a calling to come over here today, and I just ran with it. I don't know what I'll see. I hope I'll see something interesting, and if not, at least I would have tested out my app, my GPS app, to see whether or not it will connect without data, because this phone doesn't have data connected to it. So as you can see, this area was previously prohibited because of its proximity to the volcano, but now it's open access 24/7. The only reason we don't really come over here much is just the distance, and then also there's not much shade on the beach. And on top of that, like if I was to do like a night patrol, it would be a bit airy and scary, because you just, you know, the ocean could be a lawless place, and you just never know if you bump into something that you shouldn't have. Some illegal docking of the boards, people being let off, or something else being let off on shore. So, you know, these things could happen, and it's in the back of my mind. So we're on the beach. There's not much here to see. I already saw for us a full scroll, which was here probably last time. I just wasn't able to take the GPS, but I think I figured out a way to use my app without data and still get the GPS locations. There's a couple tropic birds over here, which is a sign that they may be bait fishing in water. The sea is surging a little bit inshore. No signs at all of fresh tracks on this part of the beach. I ate rice for breakfast, and I really shouldn't have. I feel a bit sick now. But I was feeling hungry and a bit naughty. I made overnight oats, but I decided not to have that. So I'm quite happy for this walk on the beach, to be honest. So leatherback turtles are one of the most critically endangered in the world. In fact, the numbers are going down significantly in the Caribbean, especially in the south. Suriname, Guyana, French Guyana, places like that are reporting lower numbers, significantly lower numbers. In fact, compared to the 2000s, French Guyana are saying that they used to have nestings in the thousands of these leatherback turtles, and now they're nesting only. Last year they had like 17 nests or something like this. And the reason why is because there's been a lot of illegal and unregulated fishing happening in their waters, and the leatherbacks are getting caught in the floating line of the gill nets, so they get trapped and they drown, and nothing actually happens with that meat. It's not like it's being caught for sale or anything like this. It's just a bycatch issue. As you can see, there's someone I know who is refurbishing this house. He bought that house, he's refurbishing it. He's a pretty amazing carpenter. The nickname is Easy Bongo. And so yeah, there's some people who are buying property over in this area and restoring it. There's no underground power or water supply, so but it can happen. You could just put up your own water system and solar panel. To the back of me there is sand mining going on from the old guts of the volcano, where the sand is known to be really good for building materials as well. So that's the #1 export trade happening on Montserrat right now, is sand mining from the gut sand of the volcano. Impact. And it's providing good business for a few people on the island, employment for some as well. So it might drizzle, and behind there you can see the gas coming down from the volcano. I'm not really smelling the sulfur gas so much right now. It's probably blowing towards him up more directly, or it hasn't quite reached us yet. And there's also some rain coming down in that as well. So it looks like a big heavy shower of rain is gonna come down, but I didn't want that to stop me today. You know, I should have been walking more above the water line, because I can see another one of these tracks coming up where, you know, I found 3 of them last time I was here, and I just want to do the data points for them before they get washed out or lost. And yeah, what else was I going to tell you? I was going to tell you more about the leatherback turtles. So for those of you who don't know them, and maybe you don't know that much about sea turtles of the Caribbean, but using Montserrat as an example, we have 3 turtles that usually nest here. There's been evidence of 4, but I'm going to tell you about them in a minute. Let me just take a GPS track of this other nest. This is an actual nest. Okay, wow, so I found a new nest. So the last time I was here was last week. It was Sunday or Monday. I'm gonna recheck my notes. I think it was the 2nd, but I'm not 100% sure. I need to check my notes. But since then, because there were car tires here that weren't affecting any nests, and now there's a nest actually right in the path of the car tires. You see? So I know that there's a new nest here, and you can see it by the softness of the sand. They love to dig in soft sand. This one came really nice and far up on the shore. So that shows me that this nest is guaranteed. Like, there's not many things that should interfere with this nest. Usual predators are like dogs and ground lizards, but I don't really find much of that happening here. Maybe if there is ground lizards and so on, they stay further up in the shrubbery. But this is very interesting. So I need to measure how far up from the shoreline this has been, and how sort of wide this sea turtle is as well. Its size. See the track? So its tracks are much wider than the average turtle. Green turtle, which is the largest of what we get here, are usually about 3 to 4 feet in width. And this turtle, if I do a little rudimentary measuring here, because I don't have my measuring tape. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a smaller of the leatherback, because they tend to go maybe 7, 8 feet up to that. They weigh about 1,000 tons, 1,000 pounds. They can weigh about 1,000 pounds. So she's about 4 feet wide, and she would have nested someplace in here very difficult to know exactly where they nested. And even if you were to try to prod for the nest and the eggs, they've been laid around 4 to 5 feet in depth. So very difficult to know where she would have nested. But I've gotten the GPS location, and I'm also trying to get an idea of like landmarks. So you can see the cacti up there, that little bit of cliff face. So we know that she's pretty much right in front of that spot. So if all else fails with technology, then we could just grab the landmark. Great. I'm gonna check now how far away from the watermark she might have nested. So the top of the nested area is around here. I'm just gonna count it out. 2, 3 feet, 4, 5, 6. So right, I've just counted 45 feet from the waterline right up to where she potentially nested, which is again another piece of evidence that this turtle is a new one. This is a new track, and she's probably come up in the last day or two. So if it was an older track, you would see that the wind, and because it's been a bit gusty, the wind would have covered up the track. It's very clear demarcations of the crawl. You see? Incredible. Her fin is about 2 feet. 2.5 feet in length. So this is very cool. Very active nesting happening here at Barton Bay for the leatherback turtles. So it's making me think that what are the chances of coming out here one night, maybe around 9 o'clock till midnight, and walking the beach every hour and seeing if we spot one by chance? That would be incredible. And I feel like I want to come over here every couple of days, actually, to just see for sure if there's any new nest and exactly when, get a closer target on exactly what day that they would have nested. So these particular turtles swim far and wide. There's been evidence of them coming as far as from Alaska, colder temperatures. They're cold-blooded. They can stay warmer than the average sea turtle. They can dive deeper, and as a result of that, they really take advantage of being able to go from cold to warm temperatures. And I'm very fascinated by them. In fact, what else could I say? The other turtles, what I was telling you, is that the other turtles that nest here are the green, which has recently been upgraded in conservation terms. You could call it downgraded as well, but it was endangered, and now it's just a vulnerable species because the numbers have done so well, and there's been so much incredible work done on sea turtle conservation over the years. So it shows that conservation can work. We can see increase in numbers. In Montserrat, for example, though, we haven't had any long-term monitoring of the sea turtles, and that's why I'm quite keen to change that. These are my tracks, my own tracks from the last time I was here. So yeah, I'm keen to change that. And so it's constant sort of on my mind as well. Now the other species of particular interest is the hawksbill species of sea turtles. They have like a beak-like mouth. They're a little smaller. They've got very pretty shells. So sometimes you see turtle shell glasses like Ray-Bans and other things that, you know, you tend to get that tortoise shell effect that people like. I'm not saying that Ray-Bans use turtle shell or turtle shells for their glasses. I'm just saying that style and effect comes from the hawksbill shell. And because their shell is so pretty and liked by many, they have white meat as well, apparently tasty meat. So fishers like to eat them. Culturally, people like to eat them. They say that the meat tastes very good, and you can get like all the different types of meat in one animal. So like pork, beef, chicken, all of this flavor comes out of the sea turtle. But I've never eaten myself, so I can't really tell you what it tastes like, but everybody says it's yummy. And people still eat them here. We have our period for turtle nesting, which is our close season for turtle catching. And the season that's been identified for the nesting is 1st of June to the 1st of September, I think. And anyway, as you can see, turtles are nesting almost throughout the year, and they're also nesting way earlier than June. So the legislation needs to be upgraded, and we're still waiting for our local government to do that, just so that there's more sort of protection for the species, and maybe a little bit more enforcement for that rule as well. Because it's like a really mystical thing. It's an amazing thing to come to this incredible volcanic island, be able to walk the beach on a nice day. You can take a dip. You can even go snorkeling around. You take photographs. You have a picnic, whatever you want to do. And then you also can observe these incredible species. So I think that's a win-win for the island. Win-win for our visitors and our government and our community. So yeah, hawksbills are definitely one to look at. They're nesting earliest. We also may get some early nesting from the green, or even hawksbill. You just never know. So that's why we try to encourage people to keep looking on the beaches. Sometimes this feels a little discouraging because you're like, well, who the hell are you for being like wanting to tell people to do this, and why do you care so much? I mean, these are the voices that speak to me sometimes as well. But it's just like, I don't know, it's just something that I feel called to do and I'm very interested in. So here we have another nest. No, I can't remember if this is one of the original nests that I had seen and counted. I think so. And so, you know, I need to find a way of marking this nest. And so I'm gonna get a piece of stick. I'm gonna get a stick. This is a piece of driftwood, actually. Oh boy, I don't know if I've been messing. Okay, so I've gotten a piece of driftwood and I'm gonna put it towards the top of the nest. So you can see where she might have covered her nest right here. You see that little mound? So I'm gonna just find another piece of stick, like just this, and stick it into the ground here. so that it also helps to mark the nest. You know? I don't know if it will stay here. But even when the nest is gone, as the wind blows and people walk around, or even the water may wash over the nest as we get rougher seas, then at least we'll have a mark to know that the nest was here. This one's a little bit too close to the watermark for our liking, but in some instances, if the nests are very threatened, you know, some scientists would move the nest further back. You know, inshore. But we're not doing that. I'm just going to make a mark of this as well here on my GPS, because remember I came to make sure that I noted the GPS locations for these nests. So I've done that, and I just turned back. I wasn't entirely sure if I had noted that nest already. So I just took a picture of its proximity to the waterline and took some more pictures of it so I can match it to the photos that I had already. Coming up to another nest. I remember this one because actually she nested here last year as well. If it's the same turtle. I remember the driftwood above as a landmark because nobody moves it, nobody really comes to this beach. Yeah, so I'm just gonna pause the video again so I can actually take a GPS marker for this spot. So another reason why the leatherbacks interest me here on Montserrat, and I don't know how we'll really get to know much about it besides me really finding a couple people to maybe help me and then camping out here. You know, here's an old shell, but this looks like it was more for a hawksbill turtle. It's like a small shell casing, most likely from last season. So you can see what it looks like, almost like a golf ball. And the hawksbills have particularly small shells, small eggs. So it was either a green or a hawksbill, most likely. We have some pretty shells here. One of the bonuses of coming is that you can actually get some shells. I might pick up one or two and then spend some time drawing it later on today, just for fun. Just for fun. You can see where donkeys frequent this beach, because that looks like donkey hooves. Yeah? Yeah. And that could be one thing that sort of scares off the turtles from nesting. It's a very delicate ecosystem, very delicate area around here, because with these few turtles that are nesting here, you just don't want to do anything to disturb that. And so I was thinking, how do I find out more about them? It's knowing, we know what time of year they come, and so it's literally during March, April time, it's camping out here at night and waiting and patrolling every night for the month. That's what we're gonna have to do next year in order to get more information. That's the only way. They're so elusive, and I really want to see one. There's no guarantee that I'm even gonna see the nest hatch. So But in general, around the world, very little is known about these turtles, how they mate. For example, this year I'll take you with me and we'll see the green turtles mating. We might be lucky to see hawksbills, but hawksbills are very rare to spot. There's a lot more numbers of the green, so we'll definitely see them mating, and we know how they mate. We know their behaviors. We know the behaviors of the hawksbill. We know they like to nest in the shrubbery. We know that they like to eat coral. Not coral. They like to eat sponges, and you will find them more in the coral reef as opposed to seagrass, which is the preferred habitat of the green turtle. But for the leatherback, we don't know as much. We know that they can dive really deep, so they could dive to about 1,000 meters in depth. We don't know about their mating behavior, so we don't know if they're mating sort of on their way back from a really big migration and feeding ground. And so do they do their thing on the way back, or do they link up just offshore the nesting area? So they nest on tropical beaches once every 3 to 4 years, and every year we're seeing 3 or 4 come back here for sure, because I've noticed that from last year. And yeah, I don't know, I think this year I really want to get to where they're at, so I can actually see them in living color. But yeah, so we don't know if that's what they're doing, or they're mating offshore, and if they're mating offshore, then where might they be doing that? There's a particular area I'm of interest of here where I found a lot of biodiversity, a lot of traffic in the ocean. It's near here, and I was gonna try to get like a data recording buoy and install it and put cameras down and more, so we can actually track what's going on in that area. But then a friend of mine went missing at sea, a fisherman that I was going to work with on a research project, which I'll tell you more about at another time. And I just felt really sad and depressed about it all, and a bit scared for my own safety, and I decided not to do that, you know. I'm not working with any particular institution or organization, so if bad things happen, you're kind of really left on your own. And so I'm trying to limit my risk and distress. But yeah, I'm very interested, very interested. And it's just very calming to come over here as well and observe and take a walk. You never know what you might see. So I feel like I might come here more often. There's no reason why I can't come here daily. The only exception is that it costs me a little bit more on my gas for my car. You know, you can see the watermark on this side of the beach where there's no burn. The burn is usually, you know, what you see, that sort of incline. And sometimes the burn here can get really high, like maybe 8-9 feet high at certain times of year. Right here you don't have a burn, and so you can see the watermark is a lot higher. It's very clean access to come up here today because I have a little bit more time. My son's not with me. I'm gonna walk straight over to Barton Bay Point and see what's going on there. So that's after the pillar. I would usually stop this transect, so this beach walk. There's no more turtle nests here as far as I can see, and if there were, then the likelihood is that since these waves came in overnight, they would have been washed away. And so that's another reason why it's important to come daily, you know? So yeah, it's kind of like a job that could be consuming. And I'm still thinking about who would come with me to camp out over here for every night to do patrols next year. You know, you've got to consider rough swells, you've got to consider the awful smell of the sulfur gas, you've got to consider, you know, heavy rain coming down and there's no shelter. You know, we could kind of hide up in little mini caves like here, but it's not deep enough to be a good shelter. Might need to build up a little, you know, stick and thatch sunshade or rain shelter, I should say. So you can see that somebody had a house here before, and that house had a nice step down to the beach. I would love to know from them if they ever, that would have been the fencing for their house. I wonder if they had seen these turtles nesting here. Looking back through the records, I've not heard folks mention or the leatherbacks, and that's why it's so good too to just document stuff, you know, get in your backyard and check out what's happening and note it down, because at some point later on, not just scientists but people in the community that are interested in the maritime and cultural heritage, they'll want to know, you know. It could connect the dots for something. It could create an economy that wasn't there before. It could be an interesting project for another geeky individual like me. So on this side, which is the Bransby Point beach side, which is sort of the beach below Fox's Bay area, you know, the whole area is abandoned now because of the volcanic activity. You can see the watermark is higher here. There's not really a burn. Just looking at what might be in the sand here. So there's bits of crabs, there's old sea turtle shells. Look at this. So there was a rockfall here, which is happening sometimes. Oh, these are very small eggs, and they never hatched. You can see they never really hatched. And something might have tried to eat them out, but they never really broke their shell as far as I could see, you know. There's nothing really in them. Let's see. Let's tear one open. See what's inside. There's only some sand inside. So the embryo would have been very small when it was dug up or washed up. I'm not really sure what happened here, but either the green or the hawksbills would have nested here. You can see for yourself. There is some activity here from an old nest. Big old claw. Stinks. There's a lot of rockfall happen here. You gotta be so careful when you're walking on the coastlines not to get too close to the cliffs, because all of a sudden there could be a massive rockfall, especially if and around the times when there's been heavy rain. You know, sort of the cliff sides get a little weak. Quite a few people here had steps down to the beach. You can tell, like, these folks were muddied people, very affluent part of the island, and it's sad that people lost everything. It's very depressing. I used to do tours of Plymouth and the areas that were lost to the volcano, and I just found that they were just very activating, triggering, and pressing. I much prefer to talk about the future of the island. What's the potential for the future? And I think that the ocean is a big potential area, and that's the reason why I work in it and around it. And I stay committed, even though sometimes I'm thinking, why is it so hard and stressful and unnecessarily draining? Why doesn't it feel like we have enough support? And why there isn't enough money going to conservation? It's like oil, gas, and war is getting all of the cash. And while we struggle to do good for not only our communities, but for our planet. More rockfall activity here. But as we get closer into the Bransby Point area, the beach itself gets narrower, and maybe that's the reason why these turtles have enjoyed nesting on the Barton Bay area, because the beach is so long and wide and soft. The sand is soft. In the shore. So I'm just showing you the whole stretch of the beach, and you know, for us to recognize that at some point, because of, you know, more energetic coastlines and rising sea levels, we're losing the nesting habitat of our turtles. So it's really important that we think about how we can manage them. How do we preserve their eggs? How do we give them a fair chance to survive and to procreate, so that the next generations of Montserratians and visitors, and those of you who are watching this on YouTube, can actually get a chance of seeing these species and learning about these species. One of the things that we're doing here on Montserrat, and I'm doing through my organization Fishing Fins, is we're hoping to hear good word on our request for funding to decide where a hatchery could be placed on the island, and put a protocol in place for moving turtle eggs, because as you can see earlier, if you've been watching this whole video with me, at times we need to move the eggs from the waterline a little bit further inland, and you know, it needs to be done carefully, because by moving the eggs you can also risk their safety, and there's also a possibility that you could do more harm than good. Plus, you can't just put a hatchery anywhere, you know. I've seen hatcheries be put down in places, including here, that, you know, weren't done in the ideal way, but sometimes you gotta try something to learn from it. Other hatcheries have been put in areas and then flooded out, and so when you've got a small budget, you really gotta try to make the best decision, the most informed, calculated decision you can, especially when trying to protect species. So if you look here, this looks like it was an old nest from last season, for either a green or most likely a green turtle. So there's also this loggerhead turtle that, if you look through the history and data records, there's been evidence of loggerhead turtles and nesting here. Here goes a fisherman. I think it's Sheldon, who is the chief or president of the local Fishers and Waters Association. I did some research with him as my boat captain a couple of years ago. And so this looks like sure that is. I don't know if you can see. Maybe somebody who's watching this can tell me what they think that is. Well, it's just washed ashore. So here the beach gets a lot more narrower. No turtles can nest in between here. And if climate change continues, these are some of the real risks we're going to see on our coastline. And you can see the major difference between what a successful nesting area, healthy nesting area could look like. And, you know, if we end up getting more rocky coastlines, on top of the rocky coastlines that we already have, then it's going to be very tough. So I'm hoping, pray for us, help us manifest the funding for long-term sea turtle monitoring here on Montserrat, and for helping to get a hatchery that functions well. And it might actually be the road to organizational sustainability and even some personal sustainability for myself. Who knows what the future holds. Who knows what the future holds. Sometimes you just get debris washed up. We walk that whole length and breadth of the beach. As you can see, it's not a very dirty beach, but every now and again some plastics wash inshore. I can take that out. There's that wiring as well. Try to get to it. And I'm a bit tired. I can't be bothered to go any further because there's a bit of a steep incline up and down. Another day when it's calmer, I'll go directly to Bransby Point over there and then walk inland. So this is another you know, benefit of being a good beach steward and clearing up your beaches or patrolling for whatever you might see that threatens or harms or sea turtles or any marine life or human life, and just keeping the place clean and pristine. So I'm gonna navigate my way out of here and make myself a little more comfortable. So you got a white shrimp. Could be a white sargassum shrimp, because we've had a lot of floating sargassum seaweed in the area. It's a very good specimen. See? Ah, so this looks like a jellyfish, maybe a box jellyfish, and I don't see its tentacles, but it's sort of dissolving in the sun. Maybe they were there before. You can see these can give you a little bit of a sting, quite a harsh sting, which you gotta be careful of if you see them in the ocean. So it's very interesting when you have a very clean beach and you look in the waterline, even if it's not like a very shelly beach, in between the rocks, you just never know what you're gonna find. I've been collecting a few things and I'll show you when I get home what I've gotten. So if you look at the line of sargassum seaweed, it's a good gauge to show you how far up the water line can get. So if sea turtles are nesting anywhere in front of that, there's a high possibility that their nest will not be successful. And sometimes the sea gets so rough that the waves crash straight into the cliffside here. In which case there's not much chance at all of survival. Although sometimes the nest could make it if the chamber itself doesn't get completely flooded. You know, so they can withstand some wet, but not that much. So it's really important that we see about a monitoring program, and we also get some finance together for a hatchery, so you can get some an idea of the location. That's the little road we came down. That's the Springs Hotel, which is that famous beach. We had a medical center called the AUC, American University Medical University here. That house there, I think he was the CEO, founder that had that house. And you can see all the other abandoned houses, you know, where nature is actually reclaiming them. That's my car. And this is the first nest, which was, well, it wasn't a nest, it was a false crawl. Something disturbed it, and when we came, it looked like it was donkeys. So I'm going to drop off this stuff back to my car, and then I'm going to attempt to walk across Emerald Isle Beach. So to wrap up this bit, it's just to let you know that the leatherback, one of the things I didn't tell you is that the leatherback turtles are black in color, and they're much softer in skin. They're sort of like leathery skin as opposed to a hard shell like the other turtles that you would see. And so these soft skin top and bottom, and that's the reason why they tend to like more softer sand for nesting. And she would typically come up on shore in the night and nest, sort of dig a pit, she would body pit, make herself comfortable, and then she would then start to dig a smaller hole, which would be her let me take off my rain jacket because I no longer need it. It's really sunny now. So she'll dig a smaller hole with her back flippers, and that's where she'll lay her eggs. And the eggs tend to be about well, she'll probably lay about 200, anything between 50 to 250, what I've read and seen, eggs. And then she maybe 100 of those could be without a yolk. I know, bizarre, but you know, that's how it is. And then the rest will be normal. The bigger females in peak season will be, in peak nesting, will nest more eggs. The smaller ones will nest less eggs. And what else could I say about those? Well, for a hawksbill turtle, the eggs may be just smaller than a golf ball. For green turtle, it'll be about the size of a golf ball. And for these leatherback turtles, the eggs would be the size of like a tennis ball, so around 4 centimeters in diameter, and they can weigh about 2 ounces. So they've got quite large eggs, very distinctive. You'll know if you spotted a leatherback turtle nest or eggs. Last year, our fisher friend on our team noted that one of the turtles released her eggs before she even got into nest, and so he saw the turtle's eggs on the surface. So he didn't take any photos or bring any back for us to take photos or videos, but that's what happened. Sometimes you see these things happen. I'll show you a video. I'll try and find a video of a colleague of mine. I think it was, I can't remember exactly where. I'll have to check my notes again, but you know, there's been instances where fishers have said to us that turtles, they have seen like green turtles lay their eggs in the water, and I thought, can't be. And then a colleague of mine from the Caribbean posted a video where he showed that when they were diving, and the turtles actually just released her eggs right near. So, you know, she just went into labor, boom, that was it. So this is now sort of walking out of the Richmond Head Hill area into the Plymouth Buried City area. This beach is what I believe is Emerald Isle Beach, but I want to double check, and if anybody else is watching this video, especially from Montserrat, please let me know. There's a few things I want to check when I post this, and I'm hoping that you would be able to hear me clearly and I won't have to redo it, the voiceover. But I just want to give you the experience as I'm doing it live and direct. So lots of shade areas out here for the donkeys. Lots of donkey hooves around. No turtle tracks. Last time we came over here, we didn't see any turtle tracks either. Strange, eh? How the beach is the same sort of length, depth-ish, with the exception of these morning glories. I don't know if they get into this sense. This is around closer to shore. Who knows? But for whatever reason, they don't tend to come up on the side. Green and hawksbill turtles would, it would appear. I think the hawksbill would probably like it in here. When we come to do more observations, and I might personally just use this as my own observation space. What can I say? Yeah, I can imagine that those guys would prefer up here. For the leatherbacks, so far in the nesting season, we have seen nothing. No evidence of them. And I didn't bring my heavy water bottle this time. And so I feel less, weighed down. And I'm able to walk for longer. Last time I was very tired and I really struggled on this beach walk. So I'm also interested to see how my health and fitness improves. Like, this could be my whole fitness regime for the summer. Walking the beaches, looking for turtles. And as I'm reflecting and thinking about it all as I walk and do this video, I'm contemplating quite seriously coming over from 9 o'clock at night to midnight in the nights. If somebody wants to come with me, they're welcome to. If not, I feel brave enough to come on my own. I think it's safe enough. I don't know if the phones pick up data signal over here. They should. I need to verify that just for my own safety and connectivity with the rest of the island and my family. But yeah, the sea looks beautiful today. It's a bit choppy, as you can see, but seems like it's calming down a little bit. Visibility near shore is cloudy, which kind of sucks for a swim. There's a few fish pots out there floating around. There's some sargassum floating around. You might have heard of the sargassum overgrowth and inundations that are happening across the Caribbean. If you visited the Caribbean, you will also see lots of beaches with these. Montserrat hasn't really suffered that badly, but bits and pieces. But most of ours stays offshore. I don't know if it's because our sea is a little deeper and rougher. Current stronger, keeping them offshore. But from time to time we get really bad inundations. We had a really terrible one on Fox's Bay a couple years ago. But on most of our recreational beaches we're fine. So in some areas here you have a little bit of a burn for about 3 feet. The sea turtles can climb those. That's no problem for them typically. But it's when it gets to about 8 feet and so on that you really have to wonder how we can manage that better. Anyway, as far as I can see, there's no tracks here. But you really have to walk across because it's very deceiving. It looks like there's no tracks, but then when you get closer to a particular area, all of a sudden the tracks might appear. So if anybody has any questions about leatherback turtles, or you know, even interested in supporting our project here, or even want to come with me at night to, you know, patrol the beach, see if any leatherbacks nest, I think it's a good time to do that. Now, why not give it a try? You see, maybe if we get lucky, we know they're nesting here. It's just that it's so elusive, and they're doing it when there's absolutely nobody around in the dead of night, maybe even 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But I think it's much more reasonable for me to go out 9 to 12, which will be my typical nighttime hours. I'll be typically up at that time anyway, so why not do this? Especially if I've got some fun company. You never know, might get lucky. Might be the motivation I need to do this more seriously next year and really lay wait for when they come ashore and collect some data. Some data that very few people in the world are able to collect, and that has never really been collected here on Montserrat in a dedicated way. So let's see, because you never know. Like, there's sand mining going on one beach. There is development happening around the area. Potentially more and more may happen as the years go by and people choose to redevelop their homes on the island. Then our hope is that they would look out for the leatherback turtles as well. Ensure that we don't disrupt their nesting, and that we're maybe even able to see more and more come back to our shore. Maybe we could even tag those that do come on our shores with a satellite tag. That way we'll know exactly where they go, where they feed, maybe you know, how long they stay in our waters, and we are. Now I'd be very interested to understand more of their migration routes. So absolutely, if I'm lucky enough to see a turtle this time, I certainly could justify asking you guys for some support to get some tags. Each satellite tag could be as expensive as $3,000 US. Oh, there's something interesting happening up here. There's some digging. What's that all about? God, I dread to see. Why is there so much digging under that tree? I don't know. I don't know. And I'm not sure if I want to know. That's a massive hole. But I'm curious. I'm very curious. What could be making these holes? Is it the donkeys? What could have made that huge hole, and why? On the beach. Oh God. That is really bizarre. Can you see? I want to go and peep, but at the same time I'm a little bit scared about what I might see. And I'm gonna ask my partner to come back with me because I don't really want to know. I don't really want to know. It seems a bit weird. And I'm gonna head back to my car. I might in fact run back to my car.